Hello and welcome back to the Wicked Wild. It's your boy Dave, the Wicked Wed host from the West Coast of the Appalachian Mountains, calling in today, July 3rd, the day before Independence Day, and we're here to celebrate in a way only the Wicked Wild podcast can, because I'm sure you know, it's a historical fact. On this very day, 39 years ago, a historic event happened in this country. And we're going to kind of set aside the fictional movies that we usually cover to talk about a piece of historic documentary about the great and famous zombie apocalypse that happened in Louisville, Kentucky on July 3rd, 1984. Before we get into that, I'm going to let you know that we're missing one tonight. Eli is out there getting lost, as we recommended to him. Apparently, he finally took our advice, but he will be back as soon as he finds his compass and his moles walk him out of the wilderness. But let's talk to who we do have here tonight. We're going to start with Jamie up in New York, New York. How's it going, Jamie?
It's going okay. I'm a little insulted he didn't take me with him. I thought I was part of this. I'm just sitting here like I didn't even know this was happening.
Yeah, from my understanding, he literally just took off all of his clothes but his tidy whities and just walked into the darkness. Just walked out into the middle of the woods.
Maybe I'm happy. I'm happy.
It might be a good thing. But he took that getting lost thing really seriously. So, Jamie, if you had to be a member of this teen crew of angsty, rebellious kids, I was going to say, which one would you be? You're trash, huh? You're going full trash.
Listen, I'm not that exhibitionist, so I would love to be that way, but I'll take her body. So, like, we could put me. I'll be that way. I probably, though, realistic would be like the cranky one who's just saying, "Go away from me." Just hanging out in a graveyard. Get away from me.
Just leave me alone. I love Trash's like full goth energy in mid 80s, like right in the middle of the material 80s. She's talking about death. She's out there dancing in a cemetery. She's going for it. But we're going to talk more about Trash in a minute because obviously she's a key component to the whole heart of this movie. Before you do that, we're going to talk to John, our Greater Metropolitan Detroit member of the team. How's it going, John?
Specific today. It's going. I can't wait to talk about this movie.
I know that this is one that you have some feels for. So let me ask you a question. So if you had turned into a zombie, if you realized through very strict medical examination that your body is dead, but you're still talking and walking around, how are you taking yourself out? Because I was pretty impressed with Frank's like discipline in taking himself out in this movie.
I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't take myself out. I just let it all happen.
You would embrace chaos?
Yeah, let's let it all hang out. I mean,
it's true. I mean, how many times do you have the opportunity to be a zombie?
Apparently we only live once, or in this case, we might get resurrected and come back again and again and again.
That's true. So before we get into it, we don't have a Wicked Whisper this week. We're going to jump right to our On the Fly Synopsis because I did try and do a little research and find a Wicked Whisper. It's not really Dave's thing. I realize I am the wrong person to go in there because I just go BS. Yep. Okay, that's crap. No, I can't. There was nothing I could embrace.
The experts.
I'll leave it to the professionals, for sure. So we are going to jump into the On the Fly Synopsis. If you remember in the Wicker Man episode, I actually gave the synopsis, and that's not fair. I can't ask myself a question. So I did pick Jamie to ask my question to because I am curious about her feedback. I think she'll have strong opinions as a manager of people, as a leader of humans.
Okay.
So let's just say you're Bert, right? You've got this really important, shady, shifty, crooked as hell medical supply business that you're running. And you have to blame someone within that organization for the zombie apocalypse that you've just let havoc run in your area. So who are you throwing under the bus? Is it going to be Frank or Freddie?
Remind me which one's which.
Frank is the older gentleman.
That's what I thought. Freddie. I'm blaming Freddie.
Yeah. Sorry, John. That's you, brother. Obviously.
I'm the young one.
Exactly.
I'm the young, stupid one. And he does let chaos reign and just goes for the zombie life. So it all
he sure does.
He lines up. Well, if you've watched the original Night of the Living Dead, you know the prequel to this supposed sequel. And this is what happens after that movie. So we have two idiots who go into the basement, hit a barrel, and cause a bunch of zombies to come back to life by releasing some toxins into the air. And then from that, they cremate it and then release it into the whole area, which causes more zombies to come. And then these zombies talk, which is also pretty awesome. And they ask for more paramedics and more cops, and I love it.
Yeah, it's the getting them to shut up that's the trick.
More brains.
More
brains is all they ask for.
And I skipped over one of the most elusive, or I should say strange things about this movie is that apparently our military has palatial estates for our generals. And
he is living high.
And that is where the apocalypse is kind of like launched from. He launches the nuclear bomb from someplace on the shore. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the science behind that because it wasn't a nuclear missile. That was a nuclear artillery round. I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah, it's it's the 80s. We're not
exactly.
We're not being held to like accurate things, but
it does get a little hand wavy there.
And it was a very tactical nuke too. It was very specific, only localized to Louisville. And I mean, I'm sure you have some trivia on it, but I don't ever remember hearing why Louisville. It seemed kind of strange. Like maybe that was like one of the city centers they figured would be the least offended by being blown up. I'm not sure. But yeah, so basically Louisville gets blown up. We're all safe.
Exactly. Well, I think that's really all you need to know about this movie. It is 100% a template of 80s horror. I don't think it gets more 80s horror than this. It's got everything from the boobies to the brutal kills. It's got it all in there. So I am going to, and it just works out this way as it often does these days. I'm going to pan back to John. Tell me about your experience with this movie. Have you seen it before? What do you think of this one?
I have seen it before. However, I did not see it until I was much older. But this cover, I should say VHS cover, used to have a magnetic appeal to me, like probably from what year did this come out, Dave? Remind me.
85.
85. Okay, so when the movie came out, I was like 4 years old. So from about the time I was like 6, I would see this cover in the rental stores, and I would always go over there and just stare at it and just be like terrified out of my mind. Had no idea. I just saw the cover and it's like, this looks really scary. And then I'd always conflate it with Thriller, which obviously has like some little bit of connections with the dance and stuff. But anyways, I never watched it. Never got to see it until I was like into my 30s. And then I finally was like, there's that movie I always remember seeing the cover to. Let's watch it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this movie is like my favorite movie in terms of like, it is like so iconic. It is so over the top. It is ridiculous. It is one of my favorites that I feel like I should have watched many, many years ago because it's got the tongue-in-cheek stuff, but it's also got the terrifying scene stuff. It has Tarman. Tarman is amazing.
One of the best zombies ever on film.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I feel bad it's stuck in this movie. And then it also has the inspiration for the bicycle girl in Walking Dead, which is a superior version of this. But however, seeing this and having such a serious tone in a comedy is kind of wild that it like kind of jumps across both lines. But anyways, I understand. People hate this. I've tried showing this to some younger friends of mine and they don't get it. But me and some older friends, we sit there and just laugh and just like enjoy it. So, but big fan.
Yeah. One of the things I can't separate myself from, but I did think about when I was watching this movie is how much of this movie is carried by nostalgia and how much of it would play for a younger audience, because there are some things that, that some audiences are genuinely going to be and rightly be offended by in this movie. if you don't understand the kind of culture that was going on around this movie. But I was curious if it would hit, and I'm sure it does. It probably hits very different for the Gen Zs and the millennials, which I am not part of. So, all right, Jamie. Tell me your story with Return of the Living Dead.
I don't remember when I first saw it. I have seen it somewhere, obviously, in my just catching up on horror movies that I was too young for at the time. I mean, I saw this. Why I can't remember when I first saw it is because watching it again literally like yesterday. It's fine. I mean, it's like, I definitely like kind of remembered beat by beat once it started again. I was like, oh shit, yeah, like this is like, but it's like, I'll be honest, I phased out so much watching this, and part of it is because it's not very deep, obviously. Like the plot line, the synopsis is exactly what John said. It's one sentence, like it's you know, which is fine. That's what like a lot of some zombie movies are or whatever. But for me personally, it's not funny enough to hit with the comedy. It's not gory enough for me for it to hit with the horror. It's not. It just misses all those things for me. And there is no nostalgia because I know John likes it, but similar to John, I didn't see it till I was like a little bit older. Like I was too young to see it at the time, and then I probably didn't get around to it. You know, even when you're younger, catching up on horrors, you're doing like the main staple, the big ones. Like, you know, by the time you get to Return of the Living Dead, I was probably older. I probably saw this in the past. I don't know. I'm not saying my age, guys, so don't worry. Right? But like, I'm just saying, like, it's not something that I have like this nostalgia for. Like I do like Pet Sematary, which is terrible. And like, you know, granted that's not a comedy, but you know what I mean? I'm sure there's horror comedies from my youth that I'm just like, oh my God, that's like the greatest thing. And it's a terrible movie.
Yeah. This has no generational reference for you.
No, it's like, yes, there are iconic things. We'll get to Quigley's nakedness. Like that's an icon. Everybody knows that. Like I feel like if you don't even know this movie, you know that scene. If someone could give you that scene and you know it's from this movie, the same zombie you reference, yeah, like those things are all like iconic, and they, you know, and it is a little silly. I don't hate it, but that's why it just doesn't stick with me. It's not something I rewatch, and it's like once I saw it the first time, or even maybe twice, who knows? Like I was just like, okay, that's a movie, and moved on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's very much the Caddyshack of zombie movies.
Yeah,
it does what it's doing. It's goofy. So
yeah, that's it.
So for me, obviously I'm a little older than both of you, but I didn't see this until college, and this was a party movie, which it is a perfect selection for a party. You know, if you're having sort of an October party and you want to throw this on, it's a perfect selection for that. But I'd only seen it that one time, and I hadn't gone back to it. I knew it was a iconic movie, and I know all the references from the movie, and, you know, kind of all the things that it impacted within the zombie lore of Hollywood. But it wasn't something I ever wanted to go back to. And a lot of that had to do with it wasn't really available for anywhere, which we'll get to here in a little bit. But this is one of the most, you know, as I'm watching it this last time, I did end up buying it on streaming after watching it. I went back, and after I rented it, I bought it because it is one that I want to have in my collection. But it is one of the most 80s of horror movies. I mean, it is so 80s, from the music, from the wardrobe, the effects. And we talked a little bit about this when we talked about Children of the Corn, which came out this same year. But for a low budget zombie movie, schlocky movie, the effects in this are pretty fantastic for what they were doing. And John, you just mentioned the torso zombie. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty solid effect for the money that I know they had for this flick. I mean, having the spine move around, and it's oozing spinal fluid onto the examination table and everything. And probably one of the most impactful compound fractures. I mean, you have a spine there flailing in front of you, John. I'm sure that makes you happy.
No, that was fine. It's fine.
It was already out. It was already out. Yeah.
It's out.
And it's a zombie. She's already dead. She's not feeling a thing, right?
We didn't have to see it break.
And it's clearly fake. It's when you bridge that line of reality, and it's like, wow, that's way too real. And then my stomach starts to quease, and it's like, then I have the ESPN like flashbacks of all the real compounds. Like, I can't.
Yeah. the empathetic pain that you would feel. Yeah, you don't have that for that one. But the thing I really enjoy about this movie, and we talked a little bit about this, about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, is this is the movie, because obviously Romero was making these zombie movies, and he was being very serious with the subject matter, and he was trying to make much bigger comments about society and all those things, which this movie makes an attempt at, but it's like a half-hearted attempt. But this movie really gave a new subgenre of the zombie genre permission to really just get goofy with that topic. And we're going to talk about some of the reasons behind that. But I think the biggest part of that is Dan O'Bannon. And, in several of the interviews, Dan O'Bannon, the director of this, also the writer of the original Alien screenplay.
That's right.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
But he took a very hard angle on this movie when he agreed to direct it, because the script when he got there was very serious. And again, we'll talk about this a little bit more in a little bit. But he had such respect for George Romero and kind of what he had done with the original that he did not want to do anything that would directly compete with what Romero was trying to do. So he went hard into the schlocky goofiness to kind of give some separation to these two franchises that kind of birthed out of the same original movie, which is really interesting and rarely happens. But I also think this movie is important to zombie movies of all kinds because it gives us so many of the new rules. Like George had a very strict set of rules that ghouls, or what would later become known as zombies, followed. They were slow. They were stiff. We didn't know what their motivations were. They were just these sinister things that you had to cut off their heads to stop them and all that. Well, O'Bannon said, no, none of that's going to work. You're screwed. You can shoot them in the head. You can put a pickaxe through the skull. It's not going to stop them. You've got to literally obliterate them to get rid of them. And obviously the big thing that this movie gave to zombies is the whole brains concept, that they're running around yelling brains. That came from this movie. And it even gave us an explanation of why they have to eat brains. Not that it makes any scientific sense, but
no,
that whole topic comes from this goofy movie from the middle of the 80s. So tell me a little bit about, kind of what your favorite characters are, or if there are scenes that you all really enjoyed. I want to get kind of get into breaking this thing down because there's so much frigging going on in this movie.
Well, I just want to start by saying, because it's like not, again, this is a one sentence plot of this, but I feel like if I was going to summarize it, John left out one thing, and I just feel like it's important to this movie is that this thing outbreak is in like a medical supply factory. So like just the beginning of it actually made me laugh because like those little dogs, they kept calling the dogs like the split dogs or whatever they kept calling them, like the little dog statues, which the first time one of them animates, which is barely, but they hit it and it yelps. And of course I'm sitting on the couch like, oh no.
Stop hitting the half dog.
That's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? I'm like, not the little dog, which is barely doing anything. It's sitting on the floor with like a little motion in it, like going like, but the point is like, so the first thing that comes back is what? A cadaver, right? Like the first thing that actually like attacks them. So it's like, it's a good setting to put that in just for the silliness of those things. Besides that, it then makes its way outside and like to the actual living dead, the people, like the ground and, rains all over all the dead people. But the medical factory, like starting the medical supply factory, like, I don't know. I just thought that was funny because the things they had around that were just the butterflies on the wall were like flapping their wings in the little, there was like a specimen, like picture thing of dead butterflies and they all started.
Yeah, it did feel very theme park ride, which was cool because it was like a haunted house kind of setup.
Like you're on a Jungle Cruise before, like, I don't know. It's just, everything started moving, like animatronic.
Love a good dark ride. It's like perfect. And also the cemetery is Resurrection Cemetery.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like it's a painfully obvious like haunted house like setup of so many things. And of course it's right next to the medical supply company that has these things that's going to cause zombies to come back. It's like you couldn't have like put two things together to make this happen more if you wanted to.
And then have the most random group of teens. Oh. There's no way in hell that these 5 people are actually friends. It's like every clique in high school was represented within this one. It was like the Breakfast Club on field trip. It's kind of what this group was.
Well, what's her name? I'm sorry, because people, like I said, I kept tuning in, like names don't stick with me in this. Either. But the lead chick, like the chick who's Freddie's girlfriend or whatever, like she, like the moment they show her Tina, sorry, because Tina, like the moment they show Tina in the car, I'm like, what's this girl doing here? Like they kidnapped her on the side of the road.
I was gonna say, she's a victim of some kind.
The one square that they allowed in the Hot Topic.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was just like, no, I don't know any of their names besides Trash because she's the only one. I mean, I mean,
Such a
like
good
you
name.
can't miss her. I mean, God, she is full frontal naked this whole movie. She has no problem. Like, and she's doing everything normally but naked. Like,
and even before she's naked, she's got this like iconic look about her. I mean, she's so goth, and she's tiny. I think she's what, like
she's
5
so
foot.
Tiny. She has to be. She's like 80 pounds soaking wet. Like she is like the tiniest human being.
And then you have Suicide, who's the quote unquote punk leader of this group, who is like the most random guy. It's like when she's in the mood and she's kind of propositioning Suicide, and he's like, it's like, what you think this is a costume? No, this is a lifestyle. This is who I am. And then she starts rubbing on him. He's like, have some respect for the dead. And I'm like, wait, what?
That's the best.
Pick a lane, dude.
He's totally ignoring her grinding. She is full ass naked. Like not even, oh no, I'm sorry. She has leg warmers on.
Just dry humping his leg.
She is literally just all on him, and he like won't even look at her. It's like,
I've got serious stuff I'm brooding about. And to that point, he's probably average height when he's around the rest of the group. She hits him like the top of her head hits him like under the arm. Like she's tiny.
She's basically crotch level. She was perfect level, and he just like stay away, like get away from me.
You don't get it. And when she finally gets into her zombie makeup, which is like this iconic look, I think it even comes back in one of the sequels to this movie, but she is full Gozer at that point. And I have to imagine they took some of the Gozer design from Trash as a zombie, because the bright red hair and the bright red mouth and then just bleach white. I mean, it's an iconic look. She's awesome. She's like one of my favorite parts of this movie. I wish they had used her more in the zombie form, because when she shows up, it's impressive just because of she's so small and she's just ripping people apart.
They kind of just should have put her more in it in general, like naked or not. I mean, she was quick to rip her clothes off. Like there's not even, I like in like some movies, like I love that in this movie too. It wasn't even like in a lot of movies, guys, wow, I'm just stumbling. But like women like lose their clothes, like, right? Like it'll get ripped or whatever. She was just like, fuck no. She just rips everything off and starts dancing in the middle of a cemetery. And I'm like, yes, this is fantastic. Yeah.
I'm going to dance on this damn crypt, and there's nothing y'all can do about it.
And then hang out the rest of the day. I love it.
Exactly.
Like, they just hang out at a party naked. Like, doesn't matter.
That's my favorite line. I just want to party. It's like, what?
Have some respect for the dead.
There's so many good one-liners in this that are so 80s.
So let me ask you two this. Did you have the same reaction to poor Linnea Quigley having to do like almost the entire movie barefoot in the mud and in the water and in the warehouse? She's never wearing shoes. And I'm like, dude, that's gotta suck.
Yeah, I was just more focused though on like not having any, like no bra, no underwear, unless they put something flesh color, because she like, sorry buddy, like she has no hair anywhere. Like she was very like whatever. But like I was just more thinking of just having to do all this now, like just like real honestly just naked. Like I don't know how, but like the same thing, crawling through, even just walking around with all these fully clothed people, and you're the one that's running around, or in the car. They're all sitting in the car frantic, and she's literally sitting in the car naked, like freaking
with the
out.
rain machine pouring on her,
and like squished between people naked. And I'm just like,
what a trooper.
Yeah, but the shoes, that's gotta. Anytime anybody does a lot of things without shoes, I was thinking it during Cloverfield too. First when they do it in heels, but then when they have to do it without shoes, it's like just grab someone's shoe, grab something and put them on your feet, because that's gonna get to you after like a long time.
Yeah, your feet are gonna get wrecked.
Your feet are just
And maybe you know, Jamie, because you're much more into fashion than I am. Were those just like long leg warmers that she had stretched into like thigh socks with no feet in them? What was that she was wearing?
So I don't really know what had. No, I guess leg warmers can be that high. Like, I mean, I have lots of thigh high socks, which come thigh high, like much higher than you need socks to come. But you know, they look good with like shorts or skirts or whatever, which is what she was doing. Why they had no feet? I guess they make leg warmers that high too. I have leg warmers, but they don't come that high, and they don't have feet though. So yeah,
they called that the trash special.
It was a look. I liked that look. I mean, it was the only thing she left on the whole movie.
Exactly.
Like
she was committed
legs
to
were
that.
warm.
That was probably to cover up the knee pads she probably had to wear for most of the
To
movie.
do like
Because she
What
was
a
throwing
choice.
herself around. Yeah.
It was definitely a choice. I don't know.
So we talked a lot about Trash. What are some of your all's favorite characters in this movie? I mean, other than Trash, because we all love Trash.
Oh, I can never remember Enchiladas guy, and that's not
Who?
even a line in this one. Oh, it's from the Friday the 13th movie. He's like, those damn enchiladas.
Who the
Which
the
guy is
caretaker?
No, the African American friend.
Oh, Spider.
Spider. There you go.
Yeah, I could pull up all their names.
There's a lot of memorable names in here, clearly, because I don't remember any of them. But all I remember them is from the enchiladas line from Friday the 13th, and that's all I think about during this whole movie. I'm like, man, I don't know if that movie came before or after. Probably came after, but I want to hear him say that. It's just so ridiculous.
Miguel Nunez Jr.
Yeah, I'm looking at the names just so that
And
oh no, go. Sorry, go.
I was just going to say a fun fact about him is he was, in real life, he was homeless when he got this part.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He sure was.
Did he
Yeah.
remain homeless? Because I doubt this movie.
No, actually, he got to. He's been in a ton of different
good,
movies after
okay.
this.
He was a
I think
huge
one of his-
character actor in the 80s.
Yeah, he was.
Oh,
yeah,
was he?
in-
Okay.
Yeah. And another fun little piece of trivia about Nunez Jr. is he was arrested for shoplifting 3 years ago.
What? What
Apparently,
was
he
he
was at a,
shoplifting?
it was funny. Apparently, he was at a grocery store in LA, as the story goes. I'm just. This is
Yeah.
secondhand knowledge, people. But he was grocery shopping at a local grocery store in LA, and his card was declined. It was the only card he had, so he just grabbed his bags and went out. In his mind, thinking, "I'll go home and get money and come back and pay them, but I'm not going to sit here in line with everybody else behind me trying to figure this out with the cashier." So he literally stole, quote unquote, stole the food and then was naive enough that he came back and they held him and called the cops
Oh
and
my
had him
God.
arrested when he was there to pay.
Oh my god. Oh yeah.
So Miguel Nunez Jr., we salute you. Thank you for trying to do the right thing.
Wow.
Oh my god.
But he
I,
was a
like-
cool character in this.
He is. The problem, again, with me, I'm being fully honest, of me phasing in and out because I've had a lot on my brain and I was doing, but is that none of them struck me. I did like, is it Ernie, the
Yeah.
caretaker guy? I
Yeah.
did like him. I did like that when even right off I know this is so silly, but right off the bat, when they come to him with the dismembered body parts, and they claim it's
The
a rabid
weasels?
animal, weasels. He's like, you can't just burn weasels. And I'm just like,
That's not
yes,
okay.
Ernie. Yes, Ernie, you can't just burn animals just because they're rabid. That. He's like, that's not okay. I don't know. I'm like, yeah.
What
So
was the pistol that he had on? It looked like a World War II. Was that Ruger?
he had some weird looking.
And we're going to talk about that. It was a pearl-handled Luger that he's carrying around while he's embalming bodies in the morgue.
The one time we needed Eli.
The other thing, as sort of a nerdy
yeah, the morgue.
sneakerhead, is I noticed that Ernie was wearing these really cool custom colored New Balance 990s that will probably cost $5,000 today, but he had some
I
really
didn't
slick
notice
kicks.
that.
Really?
Yeah.
All
What
I
I
noticed
was
was the velour tracksuit.
Oh, yeah, you
Everybody-
can't miss that.
Yeah. His velour. Yeah. All I was focused on when I was I'm sorry, but of all the teenagers, I use air quotes because I guess they were teenagers, but I couldn't
Yeah.
really place what age they're supposed to be. All the teenagers, all of them had really bad wigs. And I know it was the 80s and whatever you want to say, but either I get they had a style they wanted to go for, whether it was punk or goth or whatever, but these wigs were so bad on
Yeah.
all of them. I was just
Suicide
I can't
had a wig?
look at this. They all had a wig. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Suicide had a
Yeah.
bleached buzz cut with the X cut into the back of it to match
Yeah.
his X
I mean,
chain.
he probably didn't. I feel but all the
But it was
all
a
the
bad
girls
bleach
did,
job, yeah.
all the girls did, and
Oh yeah, for sure.
there was at least 2 guys that did. It was
Yeah.
it was so obvious.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the girls absolutely did, and I just couldn't. And maybe not Tina because she's bland and boring. But
Yeah, Scuzz's glue-on mohawk was doing him no favors.
Oh my god,
It
that
was
was her name,
obvious.
Scuzz.
Scuzz was the mohawk dude that was literally
Yeah,
just
yeah.
glued on the. Yeah, Scuzz and trash.
Scuzz and trash.
yeah,
And
that
then
was-
Tina. Of course, Tina fits right in there.
Yeah, like when they kidnapped off the side of the road. What
Exactly.
happened?
Yeah.
Her family has posters, missing posters of Tina.
Yeah. You had.
I was just gonna say, I want somebody to adopt like 2 female dogs and to name them Scuzz and Trash.
On it. On
Yeah,
it. You want
I would
me
do
to-
that.
You just
I would
wanna give me
100% do that.
You want to give me that? What's it called? I can't even. Mission.
The pet.
Yeah.
finder.
You had literally Suicide, Trash, Scuzz, Spider, and then Freddie and Tina.
Oh, who was the guy with the like?
Oh, with the boombox?
Yeah.
That was Chuck. Chuck also didn't
How
fit
did
in.
Chuck end up in the car?
I think he was a pedophile that they just picked up somewhere along the way. With his flock of seagulls haircut.
Yeah, I mean, we said it was a weird group of friends. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and that was the point I was trying to make was, Dan O'Bannon. And we talked about this when we, I don't know if you remember when we reviewed Shark Night about that director, but Dan O'Bannon was obviously like trying to make some sort of commentary about counterculture and youthful rebellion and stuff. But this was obviously not his generation, because the caricatures of the generation that he was portraying were, even by my estimation, are so far from reality. It's kind of joke.
I don't know what they were. Period.
I love in Dan's brain though that these rebellious young punk culture people, they just want to go strip in a funeral, in a cemetery, and run around with no clothes on.
Yeah, well, that's the first thing you gotta do. It's like the 101, like of rebellious teenager is they have to look like a punk. I don't even want to use the term punk. They have to have multicolored hair,
chains, black leather jackets,
and chains, leather. They have to love cemeteries and death. Because, that's
true.
The thing.
That's a universal theory.
Yeah.
They just want to party.
Yeah.
All the time.
They're drug addicts. Yeah.
Were they even doing drugs? I didn't even.
No.
Were they drinking? They were drinking.
They weren't even drinking.
They weren't?
Yeah.
I thought it's.
They just had road flares, a boombox, no clothes.
Just music. Yeah, that's it. They just wanted to dance.
Yeah, my suspicion after watching this is that Suicide at least is full on an undercover narc. Like he is he's like a 30-year-old man who's portraying himself as a teen just to find out who's selling drugs to these kids. That's the energy.
And that's the reason why he won't sleep with Trash. Because
exactly. Yeah.
Crossing the line.
Oh
exactly.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
Can't do that.
That's the conclusion Dave came from.
I think it's solid. I think it tracks.
Because he just talked like somebody who had a mortgage payment that was overdue and a couple of kids that he was worried about. So he had more going on.
I will say for such a silly, like slapsticky in a way, whatever, just like a silly.
Oh, 100%.
Fun, horror, whatever. It took too long to have some deaths in it. Like you had such a big cast. Like we should have had some like really quick, funny, like throwaway people sooner than it just took a very long. Even in the beginning, you have 2 guys, okay? 2. Even if you want them to make it to the end, you have 2 there. Then they call in Bert. Then they call in a third or whatever. Then they get Ernie. Like, I already have 4 guys. Like, all 4 of these guys do not need to make it this long. Like, someone here is dispensable. Whether it's Frank, whether it's Freddie. Like, someone here
it's not Ernie,
should have gone already.
Yeah.
It's not really Ernie, but like someone there should have gone already.
But to your point, Frank and Freddie, as soon as they get gassed, we know they're doomed.
Yeah,
right.
They should have.
So have a little more fun with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of crawling into a crematorium.
That was. I just remember thinking like, oh my God, they're all still here. Like I looked up and I was like, wait, nobody.
We haven't lost anybody. But to the point you made earlier, John, and maybe that's where we could have gotten a really cool Frank kill is I wish the tar man zombie would have gotten to rip into somebody, because that's like the first time I can remember, at least chronologically, a movie really showed us what zombies would become. That, like the way that actor moved and the makeup and everything. I mean, it was pretty convincing.
It's real. It's all real. Yeah. It's not fake.
It's all practical.
Crazy. It's what's awesome about it. It's like I don't know who that dude is. I'm sure.
I'll tell you right now, Alan Troutman.
Amazing.
Way to go, Alan.
Alan Troutman, he's born in Brooklyn, New York, guys.
Ah.
I mean, this is all lining up to make a lot of sense.
Above and beyond almost anything else in this movie, that zombie is like portrayed in all kinds of merch and everything because he's such an iconic
Yeah,
look.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I have a sweatshirt and a pair of sweatpants with Tarman on it. And I was wearing the sweatshirt earlier today because for whatever reason it got really cold. But the Tarman reveal where they show him as the gas is coming out and the whole face stuff going, that is an amazing effect. It does not even deserve this movie. Like it's like that's what's ridiculous, but this movie has legit effects.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
The same year that Children in the Corn came out. I'm still holding a grudge about that, about the whole film
like
painting thing that they
laser
The
corn
special
demon,
effects,
whatever that was.
Yeah.
They could have taken Isaac out there as a wax figure and melted him. And
Absolutely.
Then that movie would be pretty metal.
Yeah.
Like I could say this movie isn't like, oh, like whatever, gory or whatever for me, but like for the effects of the time, like there's nothing wrong there. It's just there wasn't enough of it. I wanted more of it, or like a lot more.
When Frank pins the first guy to the ground with a pickaxe,
with the pickaxe.
That's pretty visceral. Because he's still moving and
there's
everything.
no blood though.
Yeah.
Still
He's
yelling.
been embalmed and emptied.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine at that time it probably hit even more. But even for somebody who had only seen it once and forgot mostly about it, when he does that, in my brain, I know that zombie's done because that's the rules. And then the whole reveal of, oh crap, these are different things. Like they do not go down. Yeah, and cut him up. And then
and that's not enough.
He's still running around.
And then you're like, oh, we're screwed.
That shit skeeves me out. Like literally the headless body walking around. I don't know how to that effect, but it's just like no, it's weird.
You should be dead, sir.
Right. Like this isn't okay. But the only gore I think you get is when Suicide head gets chomped by Tarman.
Yeah, that's
it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tarman gets the blood all over his face. It's even better. It's like, wow, can we get this for the whole thing?
No, you only get it there.
No.
That's disappointing.
I know. You know what? Oh, this is probably a dream scenario for Jamie, but having Damien Leone do a remake of this.
Ooh.
That would pretty.
I don't know if you could, but I would love to see somebody go even harder 80s with this and way gorier. I don't know what that would look like or how it would do, but I would be interested to watch it.
You know who else would remake this and just go for it in all the best kind of ways is This Is a Fede Alvarez would be a really fun movie.
Okay.
That would be good too.
Because he would lean hard into the effects.
You're both talking up my lane, so it's like you guys just want me to come on board here and think like.
I also want to see that version.
No, both of them could. Yeah, that'd be it'd be a fun ride, I would think.
Or you know what? Fede Alvarez directs it. Damien Leone does the effects.
There you go.
Instead of Damien Leone taking everything in a movie,
the
just
dream team.
some other people do some. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
All right, Alvarez, call us. We've got an idea.
Yeah. And David Howard Thornton can play the tar zombie.
Oh, perfect.
I mean, but he has to show up as Art the Clown at some point in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right. We got a crossover.
Well,
they'll just put him in the. Yeah, you'll put him in like the back. You'll put him in the.
Yeah, he's just got to pop in. Or with his little sunflower glasses.
Yeah.
Oh God, those glasses.
Frank would have to be played by David Koechner. He'd make the perfect Frank.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing. Oh, that would be so good. All right, now I feel like we have to recast this whole thing. Who plays Trash?
Oh, who plays Trash?
Who loves to get naked? Right
I know
now?
that Jamie would hate this, but it'd have to be Ortega.
She doesn't get naked.
I know,
but
man.
she's that pixie kind of size person.
Yeah, but then we're getting no nudity or whatever. You got.
Well, that would be the big reveal is that this is the movie she decides.
Ortega's willing to. Yeah.
I'm thinking I mean, you'd probably have to pay her a ton of money, but Margot Robbie would probably make a good Trash.
Oh, yeah.
She's too old. I love her. I think she's gorgeous. I think she's too pretty and too old. Like they're young. They're teenagers, aren't they?
But I mean,
they're playing
like they're 25, 30.
I know, but she's. I hate to bring it. She's.
We'll have a 40-year-old play a teenager, even more.
Yeah. That would be the 80s move for sure.
Yeah, why not just throw my girl Samara Weaving in there since I'm
game. Let's go. That's good. That's the new Trash.
Idea.
Yeah.
Because she would lean into it. Like she would love playing a role.
Oh yeah, she would play, or you could even have her play Tina, and she probably actually would do that one pretty well, just as like a different.
Okay.
This is turning into something, guys.
I know who should play trash, and she would probably be game for it. Miley Cyrus.
Oh, yes,
God,
she would.
She would love playing that role, and she'd be great at it. Let's be honest.
Oh my gosh.
That is right up her. Yeah. Wow.
She would make a great trash.
Yeah, that's a.
Now her
Wow.
great.
She would emasculate suicide in
Oh,
Make It
yeah.
Seem Real. It would be awesome.
All right, Cyrus, give us a call. We got an idea.
Yeah.
TM on all of this, by the way. I've written it in my notepad. It's officially trademarked because I'm
sure she loves this movie. It seems like it's
Oh,
right up
yeah.
her alley. So, like, maybe she's thought it. Maybe she's even done it for Halloween. We don't even know, guys. Like,
Maybe she would executive produce if we gave her a script. As long as she got to play trash.
Yeah.
We don't need to write a script, Dave. We literally just copy and paste what
Exactly.
it is. Just go, this is what we want to do. Here's the casting.
Modern, yeah, we're just coming up with a new cast.
See, this is when Eli would start raging because we're doing exactly what Hollywood does. We're not coming up with any new ideas. We're just remaking something. Just kidding. But ours would be a banger, it sounds like so far.
Yeah.
I mean, who's gonna play suicide? I mean, if we're gonna recast this whole thing,
I don't know my young actors. Like,
I don't think you need young. I was thinking.
Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't.
I was thinking Batista.
Ooh,
No, he's too big.
he's a little too dad. But what's
Too dead. Okay.
yeah?
Hmm.
Who's
But
the
now you
guy?
say it, can we put Batista in here somewhere? Because I love him. So let's put him
Maybe
in
he's the
there.
new Tar Man. Maybe we go a totally different direction with Tar
Like
Oh,
a
that could be-
huge tar man.
Man. Or Ernie. He would be a badass
Oh, he
Ernie.
could be a great Ernie. Yes, I like him as Ernie.
But let's see. Suicide. Who's the guy? Shoot. From the damn it, the Magic Mike. What's that actor's name?
Oh, what's his name from 21 Jump Street?
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Oh,
gonna have to look it up now.
Channing Tatum.
Yeah,
Yes.
Channing Tatum. He would play, and obviously not a teenager playing this role. He would lean into something like that, I would think.
I want to make again because I don't know young.
And he would
actors.
brush off Miley Cyrus like, "Get off me."
Yeah. I want to make Freddie the kid that was in Scream 5.
Oh yeah.
Boyfriend in Scream
Oh.
5. I'm gonna make him Freddie.
The killer in Scream 5?
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
The movie's only how old now?
Yeah, but it's still kind of new. It's not that. It's last year.
Who's going to be our grumpy old man Bert then?
I thought
I've been
last
trying
year
to think
was
of-
Scream 6.
Of
What about Carpenter himself?
John Carpenter? Wow, I like
That's
this.
Bert.
Bert.
No chance in hell he takes a role like that.
No, Bert. Bert is going to be more of a cameo, and it's going to be Bryan Cranston's going to come in as Bert.
Ooh, that's really
Or,
good.
you know what? Hear me out. Bruce
Wait, we're
Campbell
putting Aaron Paul
as Bert.
Oh, yeah, Bruce,
Yeah, that's kind of hit.
It's a one-day shoot for him, and he would
Yeah,
love
that's
it.
all he has to do. Yeah.
That is his lane for sure.
I like this movie we're making.
I really do too. I really want to see this. I'm going to be disappointed it never gets made, but
Yeah.
you give it just a hint more serious and like a swimming pool more of blood. And
Yes,
I
definitely
mean,
a swimming pool, more blood. This movie needed that for comedy
Yeah.
tone. Like not half, but a lot of a good horror comedy. And I'm not saying it's the only thing, but it's like buckets of blood, or just like a lot of blood, or silly
Yeah.
over the top gore, like Tucker and Dale. Like I don't even know if there's bucket of blood, but the deaths are over the top, and it's like
Right.
silly, like, and
Yeah.
it's just, but it works. And it's like this movie definitely could have done that more and more, like.
Yeah, and the transformation of Frank and Freddy into zombies, that could be really cool. Like going into
Yeah,
that effect.
that was
we
wasted
could have
too. That's just
we
like,
have so
oh, they're
many
sick.
cameos.
Oh, they're
So
sick.
many cameos in this movie. Oh, like
In our movie, you mean, right?
Yeah, our
Oh
version.
yeah. We're putting cameos everywhere. Because once I put Bryan Cranston in there, I have Aaron Paul somewhere who
Of course,
show
yeah.
up and say, "Yeah, bitch."
He could be
or
just a
something.
random
He's gonna
zombie.
say zombies, bitch. I mean,
No, yeah, he's the zombie on the radio calling in more paramedics.
brains, bitch. He's gonna say brains, bitch.
Honestly, I don't know why people haven't dropped off the dump trunk full of money in front of our house, but I know
Exactly.
the cast is going to be expensive.
Oh wait, we need who's creepy in the movie because now we're putting in what's his name also from I don't know why I'm working only with Breaking Bad, but the dude that was in thank God Eli's not here, but Antlers, the one that always plays a creepy Todd from Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah.
Chubby Matt Damon.
He's our Casey then.
He's
He's our boombox dude.
yeah, that or he's a
That's
chemist,
always hitting
or
on the
he's like-
girls in an awkward way.
or he's like a paramedic that shows up and gets like bit right
Oh,
away.
yeah.
Like
Oh, or
like-
maybe he's the colonel. Maybe he's the creepy colonel who nukes everybody.
Oh man!
Oh my God,
Is it-
guys.
Oh, I really wish. I mean,
Now we need this movie.
Yeah, we need this. We really, really, really do. What's funny is I have a Fright Rags card from one of my many orders.
Oh, very
from
cool.
the movie.
Frank and Freddy.
Yeah.
You know, I never pay attention to those cards. I might have one in here.
Yeah. What is funny is actually a nice little fun fact. The eye chart in the background of The Office reads, "Bert is a slave driver and a cheap son of a bitch."
I
Yep.
paused it to read that, like almost
Yep.
to read that because I was trying to figure out what it says.
It's like, wow. I love it.
So, are either of you familiar with sort of the production drama with this movie?
No, so
There's a
No,
lot
lay
of
it
stories
on
around
us.
it, and I won't go in. I mean,
there are.
I'll give you sort of the short list, and you can kind of go look at it. But obviously, you know, George A. Romero, who made Night of the Living Dead, and then the writer of Night of the Living Dead, Jack Russo, they both had concepts for how that franchise would continue, but they didn't agree. So as adults, as professional adults, they decided that they would separate and make both of those different franchises to give the source material a little more leg. So obviously Romero went out and did Dawn of the Dead, and then Russo wrote this book and the script for Return of the Living Dead. And all of the Living Dead movies are these kind of more lighthearted comedic versions, but still reference from the original Night of the Living Dead. And then Romero has all his movies. But Russo could not get funding for this. So he went out and wrote a novel about it. And then a production company bought the script and just kind of separated him completely. And they had like 2 or 3 different directors to try and get this done who couldn't get it done because obviously that script, when I mentioned earlier with Dan O'Bannon, that original script was a much more serious movie because, and it's laughable now, but that opening tile where it says all the people and events of this movie are true. Well, that was sort of the picture of the original script. He wanted to take what happened in Night of the Living Dead and make it, that was an historical event, and this is what happens in this like alternate dimension where that actually happened. So this is kind of the progression of that. So luckily, when Dan O'Bannon came in, he said, "I will not direct this movie unless we change the script because it is way too heavy for this source material." And at that time, you know, zombies were still a pretty new thing. And he envisioned them being sort of this punching bag creature that you could do a lot with, which in hindsight is pretty kind of progressive. I mean, he was right. I mean, that's what the zombie ultimately becomes. It becomes this mass of creatures that you can just plow down and hack down and kind of mow through without giving them a second thought, which is kind of what makes them an important part of the horror genre overall, is because most other creatures, it's either a single creature or a few different creatures that have certain powers or are hard to kill. Whereas zombies are just this tide of death that you can't stop. You have to completely obliterate. But that was sort of O'Bannon kind of thing. Even if you think about like Dawn of the Dead and stuff, those were big crowds of zombies, but they still followed the Romero rules. So there were certain ways that you could kind of deal with them, where O'Bannon just said there are no rules. I mean, this is a whole other thing that's happening. And like I said, I just didn't know if you knew about kind of how all of that production stuff happened, because obviously then this movie came out the same year as Day of the Dead. They came out in the same summer, and everybody was convinced, even O'Bannon himself was not jazzed that this was coming out at the same time as Romero's movie, because it's all the same source material. But this movie kind of crushed Day of the Dead. And Day of the Dead is obviously sort of a weak point in the Romero set of movies. But this kind of launched this whole new territory for zombies, where they could be more goofy and sort of a comedic
it's fun
part of horror. Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. I mean, like Day of the Dead, super dour. I actually really love that movie, but it's
bleak.
Dark. It's very dark. Yeah. But this movie's so much fun. And of course it makes for perfect video games. Honestly, like if you could make the zombie games and have more humor in it, that would be like a peanut butter and chocolate. Like Jamie and I have played Back 4 Blood a couple of times. Probably need to play more of it. But it does eventually, like they try to do some funny lines in it, but it doesn't quite hit. I don't know how you can do it, but if you could, it'd be great.
Did you ever play Dead Rising?
Oh yeah,
I did. Point. See, that's perfect. But
you gotta think that, everybody forgets it. But like that, the first time Dead Rising came out was that. It was like that peak is like that comedy. It's like moving from these zombies kind of in a way, like trying to make the comedy aspect of it in a way, in a video game and in a, but like mixing all those. That first one is genius. Like, the first one, I was upset. I think the first one was the only one, but like the first one was just, I was literally just thinking about the other day because you kind of forget about it. But I was playing the new Dead Island, and like it took me a second to remember that Dead Rising existed, because I was like, what was the game where you could literally pick up anything and use it? And I was like, oh, Dead Rising, because like you literally could put it up like a cardboard box and throw it at a zombie if you wanted. Like you could use all the things around you to like throw a paint can at them or whatever.
And you could put that stupid mask on them and hit them with a bat, and it made like a little squeak sound.
Yes.
And even Dead Island has some of that in it.
Oh,
Dead
does
Island,
it?
yeah. What I was saying, the new Dead Island, though, is not as fun. That's what I was comparing to. I was like, why isn't this as fun as like Dead Rising was? It does, though. I mean, there are, but it's...
Dead Rising's so fun.
My problem with having a brand new game in 2023 with everything that we could do in games, we all just played like Elden Ring. We saw everything you could interact with, everything you could do in the universe. And then Dead Island 2 comes out, and it's basically open world, but whereas things you can interact with are only things you can interact with, if that makes sense. Like
it's very much on rails.
Yeah, I walked into a house that had a bunch of pinball machines, but I couldn't do shit with them, not even smash them. Like they were just there, and I was like, how could you tell me this is open world and I can't play with this goddamn pinball machine?
Why is it here if I can't?
Yeah. Anyway, mini rant over, but yeah.
Dead Rising is classic. I wish they had a multiplayer where you could just jump with your friend into the mall and go crazy.
And just hang out. Yeah, and just like... Yeah,
that'd be so much fun.
Did any of the later ones? No?
They might have. I just didn't really get into them. I got, was it 3 or 4 when they first came out for the new Xbox? And I was like, oh, great, new Dead Rising. This will be great. And it was like way too serious.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, I mean... If you think about it, for the last 20 years, zombies have sort of been the predominant creature for a big chunk of horror. I mean, usually these things happen in seasons. Like you have a 5 or 6 years of vampires and 5 or 6 years of ghosts and then demons.
Where are we now? That's what I'm kind of curious. I don't feel like we're in a zone.
Yeah, I think we're trying to get... Yeah, I think we're post-pandemic. Everybody's sort of fatigued. Throw anything at the wall and see what happens, kind of thing. Which is interesting. Is kind of what was happening in the 80s. If you think about it, the 80s didn't have sort of it wasn't all slashers. It wasn't all zombie. They were throwing a lot of shit at the wall in the 80s. And I feel like in a lot of ways we've had some of that going on. You've got things as ridiculous as Pearl and X, and then you've got Midsummer and Nope. You've got so much Cocaine Bear. You've got all this freaking stuff coming out at the same time. Yeah.
Oh, Mathregan.
I did not like that movie, but I am gonna it is at least not a remake, and not
Exactly.
I mean, to a degree, a killer doll.
I was going to say it's kind of Chucky, but
it is. But I guess it is. But
I know
every
It's a
idea
different
has
take
been
on
done.
it. Yeah.
Every idea has been done. I guess what I meant is a literal. It's not the new Chucky. It's
Yeah.
like a different take on modern version of that, with a little bit of a twist to it, and whatever. I didn't like it, but I'm just giving it credit for.
I don't know how you're going to bring back vampires. I mean, zombies are done to death at this point. Walking Dead, I think, would just put that into the ground.
Yeah, but they're still going.
Yeah, what's the
watching?
hottest series on HBO right now?
Yeah,
The Last of Us is not a traditional zombie, though.
but it is. But
But it's a
Sean,
zombie.
it
Zombie
is,
rules.
Yeah. If you asked, I'm sorry, but if you asked like my dad, what is that HBO show about? He doesn't even know what it is. I'm just saying, if you gave him the description, he would say zombies.
Yeah.
If you asked like a layman, like if you just said, what is this? Someone who hasn't played the video game, someone who's maybe not knowledgeable in zombies versus parasitic versus disease, like
Sure.
they're gonna say zombie. It follows zombie rules to a degree, and I haven't even watched it, but I played the game.
And what's
but,
crazy in that show is they barely are in it. Like, it is
Right.
mostly people.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
mostly post-apocalyptic survival is what it is, which is the same as the game. Yeah.
And isn't that Walking Dead tried to do too? I mean, the comic
Exactly.
book after a while was all the people. I mean, you guys
Which is what a zombie apocalypse really comes down to.
it's gonna be. Yeah,
It's just trying to survive starvation and exposure and
Show
all
the
that kind of stuff.
zombies, though. Let me have fun. Like,
But-
don't-
But to that point though, and one of the things I was really curious about is because I had to think through it too, because obviously Romero, rightfully so, has been given a lot of credit for the zombie rules of the zombie universe and everything. But if you really think about it, this movie and The Living Dead, as far as modern zombies, these contribute as much to the universal rules of zombies as anything Romero did. I mean, because
Sure.
Obviously everybody contributes or gives credit to 28 Days Later for fast zombies that are viral. And well, this movie did that. That's what this movie was. They were fast zombies. They could talk. They were cognitive. You couldn't tell if you were a zombie kind of thing. So a lot of those rules came out of this goofy friggin' 80s series. But those rules were still compelling enough that they birthed a lot of different stories that came after this, which is funny to think.
Who would have thought this movie would have been that influential?
Exactly.
Can I say my favorite?
Trash did. That's who.
Trash. Can I say my favorite zombie is a little one that runs after him into the building when he like?
Oh, it's so good.
That's so
Oh,
wicked.
it's so good.
Such a wicked one.
It looks so creepy the way it gets it, like, and it just runs after him.
And you're like, oh God.
Literally see
Yeah.
Ernie shit himself. Like, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
We're all there with you, Ernie. Ernie is like highly relatable, way more relatable than I kind of like. He's not the guy you think of when you think of this movie. Like, but in this time I watch, I'm like, yeah, I'm with you. The whole
Well,
way.
one of the famous kind of fan and industry theories about Ernie is, and part of it's actually
No.
been confirmed by Dan O'Bannon himself. Well, a lot of the theory is that Ernie, in the morgue, is actually a Nazi in hiding, which is why he has a pearl-handled Luger, which is a German weapon.
Okay.
When he's first seen and he's got the headphones on, he's listening to Panzerrollen in Africa, which is a parade piece from the German army.
Oh boy.
If you look in the background, that black and white actress, that's Eva Braun. So
What?
there's all these things around him that kind of hint to him being this Nazi that's in during all this.
Whoa. But he
But
didn't want to
he's-
kill the weasel, so
Exactly.
So
yeah.
he's still cool. He's a cool guy.
I did think it was hilarious that there's that moment in the attic where he's holding her and she's screaming and he puts the gun up to her head. He's like having this
Oh, he
moment
does.
of-
Yeah.
It's like, I think we're about done with all of this. So Ernie's got a dark side either way.
Now Ernie's not so relatable.
Yeah, I was going to say. I will tell you this, that the guy who plays him, which is Don Calfa, it's an iconic role. And the guy, like, he goes full New York Broadway melodrama acting in this thing. Like he's very physical acting through the whole thing. Like his facial features and the kind of looks he has on his face are all very like over the top in the best kind of way.
When the hand first grabs him he is just like.
Yeah, and it rips his leg, and the movie stops so he can sit down and cut the leg off of his romper.
Yeah. Oh God.
The bulging eyes also help him express himself.
Guys,
Exactly.
I didn't really look at my notes because, as we all know, I take notes, but this one I only took a page. But
Yeah.
One of my notes, barely a page. This is barely.
Oh,
the whole top is my thoughts of if I saw it before. That's it. So then, one of the only quote, actually the only quote, but one of the only things I wrote down, and it is a quote, is "I like death and sex." That's what they said when they were walking into the cemetery. So like back to my definition of what a like rebellious teenager is. They literally walk in and like
say
probably trash. It's probably trash saying it, but she's like, "I like death and sex," and that was it. That was the quote. I was like, okay.
I think we need a T-shirt at Hot Topic with that quote.
There probably is one. I'll find it for you.
We'll do a Wicked Wild Shop. I like death and sex. And then we'll have the donkey lady as the graphic that goes. You heard me right, Eli.
I was like, this is what happens if Eli doesn't show up.
Oh man. Or what's the crazy lady that shows up on Eli's show?
Sheila?
Oh, Sheila.
Sheila, yeah.
Oh, Sheila.
She does like death and sex.
That's
So
not
an old
even-
lady
yeah.
smoking. That's who.
Yes.
I might have to work on that.
I
mean,
say that could be a really good
Guys, I think like trash might turn into Sheila. As she gets
Ooh, that's a pretty
we
solid
might have seen
concept.
the origin story.
Yeah.
So we're saying the modern version of Sheila's Miley Cyrus.
The modern younger version of Sheila. And
Well,
yes, I think that's.
Yeah.
I think that
We're
tracks.
not saying that, John.
Now I'm understanding why Sheila got all those plushy hand turkeys going on.
So any more thoughts on Return of the Living Dead? Have we said our piece
Great.
about this?
Go-
It's a
go
good
watch
movie.
it.
It's a great party movie. If you haven't seen it, even if you're younger than us, if you're having a crew over and you're going to half watch a movie, this is a great background.
Yeah, it's
watch.
a background. It's a background movie. That's like what it is. But I was gonna ask you guys. I don't think I've seen past this. Have you seen any of the other ones, like
No.
Return of the Living Dead 2 or okay? Because
I think I've seen 3 because I
Okay.
think it came out in the mid-90s, right?
I
Or
don't
the
know.
early
I don't
90s.
think
Pretty
I've
big.
seen any of them past this. I
But
think
I've
I've
never
only
watched
seen
it.
this one.
Yeah.
This is a total Halloween party movie for sure.
Yeah. And it really is a time capsule movie. I mean, in the same way that that something like Breakfast Club is for drama, this is a time capsule of its genre for that same time period. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, there are things that you have to kind of accept because it's an 80s movie, like the gratuitous nudity and some of the way that some of the wording of some of the things people say. But
some might say today's movies are missing some of that, Dave.
Yeah,
some might say that.
The gratuitous nudity in this, kind of like I was saying earlier, that was like at least like. I mean, it's gratuitous by all means in all sense, but like I don't know, she just wanted to dance naked, and I loved it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a gratuitous like she's having sex with someone and she's the only one to get naked, or like
Right.
people ripped her clothes. She was just like, granted, yes, it was written by a man to please take your clothes off and dance, but you know what? Like, I don't even like. Maybe I'm just naive, but like when I'm watching it, I'm just more like, this chick just wants to party and have fun.
She does not give
loves
an
being
F.
naked. She does not give a fuck, and she's like looks good, and she's just gonna show everybody.
Yeah.
She's like, why not?
Yeah, she has nothing to be ashamed of, literally. Well, and to that
Nothing but
point,
agency. Nothing.
and I-
but agency on that.
I put this note in the stuff that I wrote down, but to that point, especially for an 80s movie, none of the female leads in this are victims at all.
No.
Nobody's like a
Oh, wow.
wilting victim in this movie. I mean, they're all pretty
Mostly
strong.
men.
Yeah, the guys are sort of the ones freaking out and trying to figure out what's going on. But the women in here seem to have their shift together. Other than, I guess at times, what's the other girl's name?
No clue.
Scuzz.
No, Scuzz was the Mohawk dude. Anyway, the other, you know who I'm talking about, the one who was
the
with
bad wig.
Chuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one was
Yeah.
Chuck most of the time. She had some squealy moments, but really even that, it wasn't that she was begging somebody to save her. She was just freaking about what the F's going
No,
on.
I think Frank did the most freaking out, and he's a grown ass man. Like
Yeah.
he was screaming. The first time they had the cadaver, he was screaming. Like I couldn't tell which was the cadaver
Crying and screaming.
and which was him crying and screaming. And I was like, "What is going on right now?" So yeah, no, Frank is the weakest person in this movie.
Yeah. And he proved it. He tapped out early and quick.
Yeah, he did.
He took his ball and he went home.
Get it?
So that's our thoughts on Return of the Living Dead. Of course, Dave does have a Dave's Critter Corner to go with this. Anybody want to guess what Dave's Critter Corner is on?
Weasel,
It's on the
either
split
lamb
dog.
the split
It
dog.
says the dog or lamb chops or
And I'll
Dog
say
is my
this
favorite.
because I did look up actual production photos of this dog because I thought it was a West Highland Terrier because it's kind of got the body shape of West Highland
does a little
Terrier
bit.
and it has the hair. Then I did some research that I hadn't done before, but there are no black West Highland Terriers. They're all white.
Oh, they're
If
all
it's-
white. Westies.
Yeah, if it's a black terrier, it's a Scottish Terrier. So we're going to assume. And then when I did look at the production photos, what I did realize is that it's like me asking a 10-year-old to draw a tree and they put 2 lines and then a cotton ball on it. This is not a real dog and it's not based on a real
What?
dog. It's just,
shut up.
It's like
This isn't a
some
real
weird
dog.
So-
amalgamation.
exactly.
Of like,
Yeah. So it is, quote, dog. That's what this thing is. But because of its size and its wire hair kind of frame, I did assume it's a Scottish Terrier. So that's what we're going to assume it is.
Nice.
Scottish Terriers, also known as Scotties, bred in Scotland as vermin hunters to hunt everything from rats to foxes. A little note here that you guys might find very interesting is that Scottish Terriers are very skillful mole hunters.
Awesome.
sorry.
It's like perfect.
Yeah.
Of course they are.
One of the things that is interesting about, and I had a uncle and aunt who had, they raised Scottish Terriers, and I saw it a couple times, but they have a very specific genetic predisposition. When they get overstimulated, they can get what are called Scotty cramps, which is Scottish Terriers. If they get overstimulated or overly excited, they seize up. Kind of like, have you seen a fainting goat kind of thing?
Yes, it
Where
makes me
they're-
so sad.
Where their legs they actually bound around with their legs locked up because they get these kind of cramps. It's a neurological thing, but it's just with the Scottish Terriers. So they have Scotty cramps. Most Scotties share one single common ancestor, which is pretty cool. They can delineate all the Scottish Terriers that are around the planet to this one female named Splinter 2 or Splinter the Second out of Scotland. They have the second most Westminster Dog Show wins of any breed in history. So they're
Second
pretty popular.
most.
Their second, and I can't remember what the first one was. I
Oh.
knew you were going to ask, but I didn't
Poodle?
remember. But it was another terrier. I can't remember which
Oh, it's not
terrier.
a terrier.
It may have been the Cairn Terrier.
Oh, maybe
Okay.
that's an odd choice.
I know that's a popular one, yeah. As far as temperament and adoption facts, they are obviously very popular. They are terriers, and anybody who has a terrier will tell you that every terrier digs, and they love digging, and you can't stop them from digging. So just be prepared that if you get a Scottish Terrier, they're going to dig. Just deal with it. And I don't mean if they're outside, they're going to dig. They are going to dig your carpet. They're going to dig your clothes. They're going to dig your bedding. They're going to dig whatever they're on. So just be prepared for that. They have big dog attitude. I know Jamie knows what that term means, and John does too. You both have big dog attitude dogs. They do not recognize their scale as being diminished to any other dog or any other person. They're strong tempered and confident. They can be very territorial because they're terriers, and they can aggressively protect their home people against strangers and unknown animals. So they can be aggressive when there's other animals or other people that they're not familiar with around people that are part of their pack. They need moderate exercise, as any terrier does. They need daily walks, but they can be great and small apartment dogs because they don't need a lot of space. They just need walks. They just need moderate exercise. One of the most independent and self-sufficient of the terrier breeds. They don't shed a lot, which is surprising. But, and you've probably seen, everybody knows what a Scottie looks like. They have their shaped beards on their muzzle and their skirts on their bellies and their legs. So they do need kind of every other month or every few months, they need to be kind of groomed and trimmed and clipped out to keep their shape for all of that. Due to their popularity, something you need to know, any breed, and this is going to go for any breed that we talk about, of a popular breed, whether it's Labradors or any of these Scottish Terriers, because they're popular, they've been overbred. There's a lot of inbreeding within the breed, so they are very susceptible to a lot of health issues, which include everything from very serious autoimmune disease to just allergies. So just be aware if you do adopt a Scottish Terrier, be aware of that. Because of a lot of the things that I mentioned earlier, if you're going to adopt one from a shelter, which I highly recommend, a Scottie is a good dog to adopt because they are very independent, confident dogs, and getting one as a pup, you're kind of, if you bought a Scottish Terrier, you're kind of buying an unknown quantity. You don't know how it's going to grow up or what its attitude is. The benefit of adopting from a shelter is, as an adult or as a developed dog, you can kind of get a sense for their personality already. You can kind of know where they are and if they're going to gel with you and your family. So, any other thoughts on the Scotties? Anybody else have any experience with Scotties? I enjoyed my uncle and aunts, but they were skittish until they got warmed up to you. But once they warmed up to you, they're a lot of fun because they've got big personalities.
Yeah, I don't have any Scotties in my family, or even like not a lot of terrier mixes in my immediate. Some friends have some terrier, but my immediate family, we've never. Terrier's a breed that we never. So my family's always had like what we refer to as a mutt. My family's always had muts. We're like a Shepard family. They've all been like Shepard mixes or husky mixes. That kind of
big working dogs.
Terriers. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a couple Westies, and we've had.
Have you?
Well, had a wired-haired fox terrier.
Oh, okay.
And they are very highly spirited, and as some people might say, is God loves a terrier.
Yeah. I had in college, which was, and I'm being overly honest, which was a mistake. I adopted a Jack Russell Terrier as a college student, and they're great dogs, but they are a handful. And as a 20-something that's going to class and trying to have a social life and living with a couple of other guys who don't know how to be around dogs, it was not a great situation.
No, they are a lot.
They're super smart, but they are assholes. They're assholes.
I had this is a long time ago, but like an ex-boyfriend whose family, like I don't know, they breeded them, but they had a lot of them, like show dog worthy dog, like a lot of them. And it's like, especially when they would let them out, it was a sight to be seen because they would they are all Jack Russell. They are Jack Russells, and they are chaos, and they are fast, and they bounce, they're chaotic energy just all over the place. And it's just like, wow. And they are very smart, but it's just like, especially a very smart dog. I mean, we all know, you know what I mean? That becomes harder because they just know too much. It's like,
Yeah, they can read you.
Yeah, they're too smart for their own good or your own good.
But that's been my only experience with terriers. Maybe that's not true. Would you consider, I don't consider a cocker a terrier. Is that a terrier breed?
I don't think they are. I don't think
they are.
No.
I know there are hunting dogs, but I don't think they're terriers. I don't think they're, because terriers, I think, isn't one of their defining aspects of all terriers is they're burrowing dogs. Like one of the things about them is that they're digging dogs. Like they hunt rabbits and rats and all that kind of stuff. So.
Our terriers didn't dig as much. The fox terrier, she dug. But the Westies, like my aunt had one and my sister had one. They didn't dig too much, but when they did dig, they dug in their space.
Okay.
It was their space.
They had designated spots,
that they chose. It wasn't, but they will, others, they dig like crazy.
I was trying very quickly, but I can't get into my Sari's DNA test because she's, after 50% of Jindo, she's Cocker Spaniel. She's 12% Cocker Spaniel.
Okay. I can see that in her brow and her eye set.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, 11.8% Cocker Spaniel.
Okay.
Yeah, we had Cockers when I was growing up, and they're great dogs. I mean, they're very easygoing. So, but I've got to stop talking about dogs because Dave's been missing his dogs. But I don't know what our campfire tells. I'm not going to throw off to Eli because he's not here. So you're just going to have to stay tuned for next week's campfire tales to see what we cover, unless we just call an audible and we just do whatever the hell we want, which seems to be what we've been doing lately anyway. So. But we do hope you all have a good holiday week, however you celebrate. If you celebrate, if you don't celebrate, we still hope you have a great week. If you want to learn, go ahead, Jamie.
I just wanted to caveat the holiday week. Please think of all the animals and how afraid they are on 4th of July. And please, just be there for them and try and take care of them. And if you could be home or be with them and do everything you can to keep them calm. Please be careful. Dogs take off when they hear fireworks. Make sure everybody is leashed up and nearby and safe. And that's all I have to say.
Great point. And something that a lot of people don't think about until it's too late.
Yes.
So I've been really lucky, and I don't want to open the conversation back up, but we've been really lucky to have neighbors that have been pretty conscientious about all of that.
That's nice. Yeah.
But I know that I've heard of others that have had real problems with that.
Or you could live in Manhattan near where they do the Macy's fireworks and you get them every year down
your
block.
either way, yeah.
Sorry. Continue, please.
Yeah, they don't ask permission at Macy's, I'm assuming.
They just do it.
Yeah. We do ask that if you enjoyed the show that you subscribe and rate the show. Give us a little comment. Let us know what you think. If you have any feedback about the show or thoughts or ideas for us on movies that you think we should watch on The Wicked Wild, you can send those in to our email, podcast @thewickedwild.com. You can learn more about the show and see some of our book reviews and other movie reviews and some of our merchandise and other fun things that we've got on our website, thewickedwild.com. And you can follow us on social media at Twitter, at Wicked Wild We Are, at Slasher, at Wicked Wild We Are, and YouTube. You just search the Wicked Wild Podcast and you can find us on YouTube, and you can see our shining faces while we talk about these movies and about all of the fun stuff on Campfire Tales as well. I did want to explain, and if you haven't been listening to the show through the last couple of years, if you're wondering why we're not on Instagram or Facebook or any of that, it's because we had a really bad experience, and that's all I'll really say about that. It's sort of a principled stand we're making. We're not only on Twitter because that's the platform that's superior to all this stuff. We're just waiting for it to implode too, but that's why we're not on the other crap as well. Just because, first and foremost, and I think John and Jamie would agree with me on this, we're not really social people to start with. But if you want to hang out with us or if you have comments, we'd love to talk to you on Twitter. And that's really the only option we're giving you, other than Slasher. Did I even mention Slasher, which is the horror?
You did.
You did.
So,
because every time you mention it, I think to myself, maybe I should sign up to be with Dave so I can talk to him too. And every time I forget later to go.
Yeah, the beauty of it is it's just horror. I mean, it's just horror stuff. So it's just the link. Yeah. And Jamie, you'll be interested. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say that's where you should put the I Like Sex and Death shirt. Just put it on Slasher.
It would sell there. Guarantee it. But Jamie, something you'll be interested in, John probably too, is that Slasher, they've added sort of a letterbox thing to where they have all the movies kind of in a library that you can link and put your rating and everything, and you can pull in the movies that you've watched too and showed what you viewed and all that. So anyway,
nice.
I don't make any money off Slasher. I'm just telling you kind of my experience from it.
Intrigued.
Anything else you guys got going on? Anything you want to promote?
No.
Just the Wicked Wild all the time.
Yeah.
Just wait for my Sheila t-shirt.
Well, if you followed us on Twitter, you've probably seen, but we did just go through and rebuild our own shop on our website for all of the merchandise we have. So we've got a lot of fun, different shirt designs from Bigfoot to Campfire Tales to whatever you want to call the main podcast's iconic logos. We got stuff there for everybody. I know we've got a few people that ask for specific designs on specific kinds of shirts, and we've tried to take care of them too. So if you're interested in repping us out on the street, we certainly appreciate that.
I will say we have one of the coolest just general logos, I personally think. I like especially this season, I like the general podcast logo, especially when it says podcast. I like the general podcast logo. That's my favorite.
I think it's pretty solid.
It is. It's really cool.
I get a lot of comments about it because obviously I wear the hats quite a bit, and I get a lot of comments. A lot of of course, I live in Tennessee, so I understand that in the context of what I'm going to say next. But I get asked which hunting brand that is.
I was gonna say I get a lot of like thumbs up and like kind of like nods when I'm walking around, and it's always certain people that wear
Exactly.
camo articles or
Exactly.
might have more prominent beards than I do, might have a few spits.
So if you want to end with those kind of people, we can hook you up. All right. We hope you all have a great night. Have a great 4th of July week. And as we always say here on The Wicked Wild, our recommendation to you is that you get out there and get yourself lost, just like Eli, because it may be the only place you can find yourself. Good night.